Hey everybody, and welcome to a long overdue episode of Superheroes, Movies, and Superhero Movies. We've been away for a little while, and it's partially because, for those of you who don't know, John and I actually live on different sides of the country. I live in Los Angeles, and John lives in Atlanta. So there's a 3-hour time difference. Sometimes it becomes difficult to figure out a time to do the podcast. On top of that, John has 4 children, so it can make it even more difficult to find time to do the podcast. And then there was also the holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Family was in town. The podcast got put on the back burner for a little while, and we apologize for that. And then on top of all of that, John and I got Grand Theft Auto 5. And we've pretty much been spending all our free time playing Grand Theft Auto 5 online.
Yeah. I've got so much money in that game, it's ridiculous.
It's a fun game. And the times we should have been doing the podcast, we were playing Grand Theft Auto. So, but now we're back.
Not to mention, I was frozen this past week.
Well, that's true.
If you hadn't heard of Atlanta before, I'm sure you have now.
Well, and for those of you who perhaps may not have heard, which I can't imagine anybody didn't, Atlanta was pretty much snowed in for the past few days.
2 inches!
Shut down.
2 inches of snow.
Which doesn't sound like a lot, but in Atlanta it is. Plus, there
it
was
wasn't
the ice,
snow.
Right?
It was the solid ice-covered roads. I mean, you couldn't drive.
People were stranded.
I had to actually spend the night in Atlanta.
On a bus.
I didn't get, huh?
On a bus,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah, our bus slid and went sideways, and I didn't get home until 9 o'clock the next morning.
It's crazy. I was reading a lot of different crazy posts on Facebook and whatnot. It was insane. And for me, it was 65 and sunny out here, so I had a hard time.
Always
as well.
65 and sunny out there.
It was rough. It was rough. So this episode, rather than talking about a certain one movie, we're actually going to do our top 10 most anticipated films of 2014. And John and I both were talking just before we started recording that we were a little worried we weren't going to be able to come up with 10. And then as we started making the list, we actually had to cut some of them from the list. We came up with too many. So I think it actually might be a kind of a fun year for movies. I don't know.
Not as good as 2015 was supposed to be.
Right.
And now 2015 won't be, but...
Because of
anyway.
the Batman-Superman movie getting pushed back?
That and Star Wars.
Star Wars is still coming out in 2015.
Star Wars is still coming out then, yeah.
Yeah, it's just coming out
Christmas
at
time.
Christmas time.
Yeah, never mind then.
Well, speaking of Batman and Superman, today it was announced that Jesse Eisenberg is going to be playing Lex Luthor and Jeremy Irons is going to be playing Alfred. So I wasn't sure what to make of the new... Jeremy Irons as Alfred I think is actually a pretty good choice. I think that'll be a lot of fun to watch. And on that note, you know, we've never had, aside from the Adam West TV show, we've never had a live-action Alfred who has the mustache like he does in the comics. It seems like every time in the comics or a cartoon show or even the video games, Alfred always has that kind of pencil-thin mustache. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious if they're going to kind of do something like that with Jeremy Irons, or if he'll be clean-shaven, just like the other previous... I mean, there's only been 2 other... from the 80s and on, there's only been 2 Alfreds, you know.
If Jeremy Irons was maybe about 30 years younger, he would have been okay. I would have been totally cool with him being Lex Luthor. Yeah, as far as Jesse Eisenberg goes, when I first saw that, and I'm still on the fence about it, but when I first saw that, I almost had the same reaction I did to Heath Ledger being cast as Joker.
Right.
The only thing is, I think he's going to look really good with a bald head.
I'm curious. You know, it seems like they're. Well, I really don't know what to expect from this movie, but I wonder if they're going to make him bald or not. The thing that worries me about Jesse Eisenberg being cast as Lex Luthor is, I've always kind of, whenever I think of Lex Luthor and Superman, I always envision Lex Luthor being older than Superman. Mm-hmm. And I looked it up. Jesse Eisenberg and Henry Cavill are actually the same age. They're a few months apart. But Jesse Eisenberg looks like he's 23.
They're
24.
as old as us.
Yes, they are.
Doesn't that make you feel great?
Yeah, no, not at all. But anyway,
at least they're not younger than us.
There's plenty of other actors out there who are younger than us. Anyway, Jesse Eisenberg looks like he's like 23, 24, so I just don't see him pulling it off.
Actually, have you looked at some of his more recent pictures? Because
No.
I went and looked those up, and because most of the pictures you see of him online are of the Social Network and stuff, that time period. He has aged a little bit, so he doesn't look as young as he did in the Social Network.
Okay.
So, we'll see what happens.
I mean, I hope it's good. He just has such kind of a distinct way of speaking and a distinct kind of nerd. It has kind of this nerdy.
That's my
voice
biggest
and everything.
concern. Yeah.
And I don't know if he can pull off the menacing.
Right, a guy that he's got the menacing from the Social Network, but it's not a guy that you're intimidated by necessarily. It's just
Exactly,
this guy's a
yeah.
jerk.
Right.
So
Right. He can play evil, but can he play intimidating? That's, I think, is a better way of putting it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't see it. And especially when you compare, you just put, I mean, maybe they wanted somebody who was kind of the opposite of Henry Cavill or Cavill. I don't know how to say his name. Because he is kind of bulky and huge, and Jesse Eisenberg is kind of this smaller, thinner, skinny, nerdy kind of guy. I don't know if maybe that's what they were going for in physique. They wanted somebody who was kind of the opposite, or what. I don't know. It was a way much younger pick than what I was expecting.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder. Granted, you read all this stuff on the internet, and you have to take it all with a grain of salt. I mean, this was officially announced, but a few months ago they announced Joaquin Phoenix, or they didn't announce it, but there was a rumor that Joaquin Phoenix was getting offered a part for Batman Superman, and everybody thought it was Lex Luthor. And I don't know if I wrote a post about it on the website. I actually think if Joker is going to be in this, I think they were actually talking to him about playing the Joker. It just seems like that's more of a character he would be interested in, and that's also, if you're going to have somebody play the Joker after Heath Ledger, you want somebody of a certain caliber of acting.
Yeah.
And so that's who I think they were offering that part to, but I don't know. It seems like Batman is older. They've got Ben Affleck playing Batman who's in his 40s. So does that mean the Joker is going to be a little bit older as well, if the Joker's been around?
Yeah, you would think so.
If he's in the movie. He might not even... I mean, like I said, it was all rumor. It's very possible Warner Brothers never even talked to Joaquin Phoenix. You have to just kind of take everything off the internet with that grain of salt. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what other casting news. I'm a little worried. It seems like every time you get on the internet, you read some more news about Warner Brothers talking to somebody about the Batman Superman movie, and I'm like, how many characters are in this movie?
Mm-hmm. Right.
Is it still a Superman sequel, or has it become a Justice League movie?
I think too. There's a lot of speculation that with it being pushed back, they're going to shoot Justice League and this movie back to back.
Yeah, and I've heard that, which I'm okay with. If
Me
they
too.
do that. And Man of Steel was originally supposed to come out in 2012. Man of Steel was originally supposed to come out, I think, in December or November, sometime at the end of the year, and they pushed it back to June of 2013. And the movie, I'm glad. I'm never really disappointed when they push a movie back.
Right.
Because it means they get to spend more time on it and
Yeah.
make it better. They're not rushing it. And so, yes, it's disappointing that we have to wait now over 2 years before we're going to see this movie, but I'm glad. Yeah.
I agree.
Take your time, make it good.
Yep. Exactly. Yeah, so on Jeremy Irons, Scar is now
Is now a good
Batman's butler.
guy. Yeah. Yeah.
There was a couple quotes online that someone read to me that were pretty funny. The first one is Jeremy Irons telling Ben Affleck after his parents are killed in front of him. And Ben Affleck says to Jeremy Irons, "What am I going to do?" And Jeremy Irons responds, "Run. Run away and never return."
Very nice.
And then the other one is Jesse Eisenberg.
Mm-hmm.
And he says, a million dead people isn't cool. You know what's cool? A billion dead people.
Nice.
I didn't come up with those. Those were online.
I hope Lex Luthor doesn't walk around talking about what's cool.
Yeah. All right, so you want to talk about the top 10 movies of 2014 that we're most excited about?
Top 10 most anticipated. Yes, sir. Who do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So that you can finish last.
Okay, sure.
All right, so we're starting at number 10.
Number 10.
Now, granted, I'm very particular about the movies I go see in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
So, you're probably going to have some more indie stuff on there than me.
I don't know. I
don't have one indie movie.
I don't really either. And that it might be because indie movies by nature really too kind of fly under the radar, and I don't really find out about indie movies until right before they come out. Yeah, so there were a lot of movies on. If you Google 2014 theatrical release dates, you can find like a list of movies coming out, and there's a lot of them on that list that I don't know, I've never heard of. Mm-hmm. So I think these are really going to be a little bit more mainstream picks for perhaps both of us. But go ahead.
In fact, I had one on my list. It was one of the ones I had to delete, and it's already come out, but it was Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
Right.
That's a honorable mention for me.
Okay.
But number 10 on my list is Maleficent.
Oh, yeah. The Disney Angelina Jolie movie.
Right. The only thing that I've seen so far, I don't know if they've released anything else since, but there was a little teaser thing about the movie. And
that's all I've seen.
Mm-hmm. And it looked pretty interesting. You didn't get to see too much about what the movie was about, but you could tell that they were kind of sticking with what was shown in the animated feature back in the 60s. You had the barbed, the barbs. What do you call them?
I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't know, like the thorn bushes type things?
The thorn bushes. Yeah. They come up. But what really excited me the most was hearing her laugh. Mm. And I thought her laugh was spot on.
Nice. I mean, is that basically just a live-action adaptation of Sleeping Beauty, or is it going to be more focused kind of from the evil witches?
I'm thinking the latter.
Okay.
I think it's... I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. But if I had to guess, I think it would probably be Sleeping Beauty from Maleficent's point of view.
Interesting. All right, cool.
And it's interesting for me to be kind of excited about that one because I'm not the biggest Angelina Jolie fan anymore.
Right.
Mm-hmm. It kind of gets on my nerves, but this one looks like it could be cool. And that's being released May 30th.
May 30th. Nice. My number 10 is a movie that, as far as I know, has not had really any footage released. And that is Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, which is the sequel to, I believe it was 2005's Sin City. I'm not super excited for it, but I was a big fan of the first one, and I've read a few of the Frank Miller Sin City books, and they're all pretty cool. And from what I understand, I think this one's going to have, like, the last movie had 3 basic stories. And I think this one is going to have at least one that's an original story, which I think will be kind of cool. I don't know if Frank Miller wrote it specifically for the movie, or if Robert Rodriguez and Frank Miller collaborated. I'm not really sure. But Frank Miller and Robert Rodriguez are directing this again, and there's a few stars that are coming back. Bruce Willis, Jessica Alba, Mickey Rourke. And there's a few new people. Josh Brolin is actually playing, I want to say he's the character Clive Owen played in the first movie.
Why?
I don't know. I think there's a reason for why it's a different actor. I think he's supposed to look different.
Okay.
But I was a little disappointed when I heard that, too. I mean, nothing against Josh Brolin, but
right.
Clive Owen was awesome in that movie.
Right.
So I could have that mixed up. He might be playing somebody else, but I think it's the same character that Clive Owen played. And then Joseph Gordon-Levitt is going to be one of the new people in it, so that'll be kind of cool, I think.
Yeah.
But I'm also curious to see, I mean, the first one came out in 2005. I was in college. You and I were in college together at that time. And I remember the main thing that made me want to see that movie so much was the trailer. Something about that trailer, the music and everything. I watched it over and over again.
Oh, I remember. Sometimes I'd be downstairs trying to take a nap. And I'd hear that car flipping.
We were roommates also at the same time.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. So this one might end up getting knocked off my list once we see a trailer. I'm worried. It's kind of, there's a sequel to 300 coming out this year, and every time I see the preview, I just find myself not interested in it. 300, the first 300 was so good, but it's like so many different movies have kind of copied the, all green screen kind of look of 300, or kind of tried to do similar things. And so I'm a little worried that maybe when Sin City comes out, it'll be kind of like, I'm over this now. Maybe I'm not as excited about it. Mm-hmm. But as it stands right now, I'm curious to see if Sin City 2, Sin City: A Dame to Kill For, is going to be as good as the first one. And that one is going to be released August 22nd.
I'll go ahead and say this. It did not make my list, but I was eyeing it. Mm-hmm. In fact, it wasn't even one of the ones I actually deleted. Because there's nothing out about it right now.
Right.
And like you, I liked the first one, but first of all, Robert Rodriguez has kind of been more of a miss than hit lately.
Yes, I agree. He used to be my favorite film director. Well, I've gone through very many different favorite film directors, mm-hmm. but there was a time where I really, really liked Robert Rodriguez, and I thought he was great. And I really liked the idea that he kind of worked outside of the studio system and did everything himself. And now I kind of think that's become more of his downfall. Mm-hmm. He has been more of a miss lately than a hit. So I hope – that's why another reason why I really hope this one is good. It'd be kind of nice to see him kind of get back.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
To, to a good spot. But okay. So that's my number 10 pick.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and go to my number 9, which is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I almost put this one on the list, but it didn't make my list.
It made mine because Michael Bay did a really good job with the first Transformers. Mm-hmm. Of course, the last two were terrible.
Well, and it should be noted that Michael Bay is only producing this one.
Is he really?
He's not directing.
I thought he was
directing. The director is Jonathan Liebsman or something like that, who directed Battle Los Angeles.
Okay, have not seen that.
So Michael Bay is strictly a producer. I'm sure he's got some input, but he is not directing. So
my biggest concern
go ahead.
Is the fact that they are aliens.
Well, they said. I remember reading about that a long time ago, and that's because originally the movie was going to be called Ninja Turtles, and it was because they weren't going to be teenagers anymore, and they weren't going to be mutant. They were going to be aliens from like another planet. But I've heard that that's not the case, that was rumor, and the actual title of the movie now is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and it's going to be, they're not going to alter the origin story that much like that. So
that's good to hear.
I don't think they're aliens. But, I don't know. I guess we'll find out when we see the movie.
Yeah. So this would be the first live-action Turtles since Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, which was also a dud.
Yes.
But the
first two were good.
Well, I was going to say the first two were good, and we need to do podcasts on these. But I've gone back and watched the second one.
Not as good as we remember it, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's got Vanilla Ice in it, so I'm not surprised.
Well, I didn't even really make it that far.
Yeah, that's funny.
So, for nostalgia purposes, it's a good movie. But
okay.
Anyway, that's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comes out August 8th.
August 8th. Very nice. My number 9 is a comedy that I'm very curious about how it's going to be, and that is Dumb and Dumber 2.
I didn't even see that
really
on the list.
It comes out November 14th, so we've got a little ways to wait for it. It's written and directed, as far as I know, by the Farrelly brothers as well. Starring Jim Carrey, Jeff Daniels. So the two main guys are back, but it's 20 years later. The first Dumb and Dumber came out in '94, so this one's coming out exactly 20. Well, a little bit later than 20 years because I think the first one came out in like June or something. But 20 years after the first one.
Let's not get picky.
Right. And, sometimes when you have sequels to really funny movies long after the fact, the sequel has a really hard time living up to the original. For example, Anchorman 2 just came out, and I thought Anchorman 2 was funny, but I don't think it's nearly as funny as the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it has, there's a pretty high bar set.
Oh,
for,
yeah. Dumb and Dumber
Dumb
is
and Dumber,
considered by many, including myself, as people's favorite comedy of all time.
Right.
And
I loved it when it came out. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah. I actually got to see it in the theater. I don't know about you.
I don't know if I saw it in its first theatrical run, but while I was living, I was, for anybody who doesn't know, I was born and raised in Atlanta. And in 94, they did a Jim Carrey triple feature at the Fox Theater. And so my whole family went. I somehow convinced my whole family to go. And we watched The Mask and Dumb and Dumber, and then the third one was Ace Ventura. But we left before the third one because my parents thought it was too late. So I did get to see it in the theater. I saw it at the Fox Theater, but I don't know if it was. I don't think I actually saw it in its initial theatrical run.
I gotcha. I don't remember how. There was a period where my mom would let me go watch a movie, and she'd go watch a movie, and that's what happened. I got to go watch Dumb and Dumber, and man, was I glad I did.
Yeah, that's why it's number 9 on my list because the original is so good.
Yeah, if I had seen it, I'd totally forgotten. I didn't see it on the release dates, and that would have actually made my list probably. I'm pretty sure. I'm a little concerned about the Farrelly brothers. Mm-hmm. I think they've kind of lost
their touch
a little bit, and like you said, with the expectations, but it's still going to be fun to see.
I think, it'll be fun to see them reprise those characters, especially Jeff Daniels, who seems to have kind of, with the newsroom and everything, has been doing some more drama-type stuff to go back into to Harry.
Yeah.
So I'm really looking forward to it. I think it'll be funny. So that was, again, Dumb and Dumber 2 comes out November 14th. That was my number 9 pick.
Okay. Number 8 on my side is RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
This movie's gotten a lot of bashing. I don't know about lately, though. I haven't been keeping up with it lately.
I haven't really heard. I don't know if that's because nobody really cares or maybe people are excited about it. But I haven't really heard anything about it. I mean, I've seen the previews and everything, but the talk online I haven't really heard much about.
Yeah, the biggest complaint is the black suit. I don't think you're a fan of that.
I'm not, but I mean, the movie has the kind of more of the original suit in it. And then I think they switch over to the black suit. Mm-hmm. So at least I get a little bit of a taste of the old RoboCop before they turn it over to the new one. But
so the second he turns black, you're just going to walk. Then
I'm just going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm just going to leave the theater. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm definitely going to see this one. It didn't make it to my list, but I am very curious. I have a feeling it's going to be bad. I'm hoping maybe since my expectations are low, I'll be surprised. But I don't know. I love the first RoboCop a lot, so, the original RoboCop. So
yeah, the first one's good. I don't know. For some reason, this one, even though it has that G.I. Joe feel to it, just the new action, that typically when I see those trailers, I just kind of roll my eyes. This one didn't make me do it. So
that's good.
I'm hoping.
I will say I was a little... Especially, I think the second trailer did it a little bit more for me than the first trailer. But I was actually a little impressed with it. So I don't know how strong of an actor Joel Kinnaman is, the guy that's playing Murphy. I've just never seen him in anything before. So I hope that he's strong enough to carry the movie and to be able to play. I mean, he's playing kind of a robot human dude. So it seems like how hard can it be? But Peter Weller did such a good job with it. As the original RoboCop, I hope this guy is kind of strong enough to carry this movie.
Yeah.
But the supporting cast in this movie is awesome. It's got Gary Oldman, Samuel L. Jackson, Jackie Earle Haley, Abby Cornish, Michael Keaton. Like, I'm excited just for the cast alone, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. And that comes out February 12th.
Very nice. Very nice. Number 8 for me is Gone Girl, which is David Fincher's new movie. And it's based on a book of the same name. And I'm excited about this for a couple of reasons. Number one, I've actually read the book, and the book was really good. And Gillian Flynn, who is the author of the book, wrote the screenplay. I'm a huge David Fincher fan. I love pretty much every movie he's made. So the book is interesting. It'll be really interesting to see how they translate the book into a movie, because there's a lot of kind of reveals and things that happen in the book that are going to be difficult, I think, to do in the movie. So I'm excited about seeing that. Like I said, David Fincher's directing it, and it stars Ben Affleck and Rosamund Pike. And it's basically, just to kind of give a, if you haven't heard of it, it's basically about this. It's Ben Affleck is this guy whose wife goes missing, and a lot of fingers are kind of pointed at him, and so there's kind of a mystery surrounding whether or not he did it or whether or not he didn't do it. Is she alive? Is she dead? Type of thing. So it's going to be a cool mystery thriller, I think, and I think with David Fincher at the helm, it's going to be hopefully pretty good.
Did you see? Well, I'm sure you did. What did you think of Girl with the Dragon Tattoo?
I liked The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. It's not my favorite David Fincher film, but I didn't dislike it really. It's kind of middle of the road about it. Didn't really love it, but didn't hate it by any means.
Mm-hmm. I have not seen his. I saw the
Swedish version.
Yeah.
That one I think is actually probably a little better. David Fincher has a little bit more style to his movie, and it has some good actors in it. The opening credits sequence is amazing. Kind of has this James Bondish opening credits style sequence, But overall, I think if I had to choose between watching one or the other, I'd actually probably watch the Swedish one.
Okay.
So anyway, that my pick was Gone Girl, number 8 pick, Gone Girl. Comes out October 3rd.
All right. Number 7 for me is The Hobbit There and Back Again. I have yet to see...
oh, really? You still haven't seen The Desolation of Smaug?
Correct.
Wow.
I think I'm going to wait for release on that one.
Okay.
Just because mainly what I've heard from people that have seen it is it's kind of they feel about the same as this one as they did the first one, and that concerns me.
I, having seen The Desolation of Smaug, will say I think I enjoyed this one more. However, I only saw it once, so I'm going to have to kind of think back. I feel like it took a while to get moving or to get started. I still think they're, I thought the first one was too long. I think this one's too long. That being said, I thought this one was more exciting, and especially when Smaug shows up, you have a hard time not enjoying it. So I think I personally like this one better than the first one.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, The Hobbit was the first book I ever read, and I'm a big fan of the story. In fact, when The Lord of the Rings was announced, my initial reaction was, why aren't they doing The Hobbit first?
Mm-hmm.
And, obviously, I think that looking back, I understand why now. Lord of the Rings has a lot more going for it. But the story of The Hobbit, I think, is richer. Like, the Lord of the Rings is more of an epic tale. The Hobbit, at least as far as the book goes, is just a more rich story. Mm-hmm. And that's released on December 17th.
Cool. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I've never read The Hobbit, so I go into these movies blind. I know what to expect somewhat from the previews, but it'll be interesting for me to see it because I have no idea how the story wraps up. Obviously, I know certain things because of Lord of the Rings, but I don't know. For example, I don't know any of the fate of all the dwarves or anything like that. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see that one. Get
I mean, you do know about the ring, but in The Hobbit, the ring is kind of a side idea.
It is, yeah, absolutely. It's not the main focus of the story at all.
Yeah, I mean, you don't even... I don't know about... I can't remember if in the first one if they talk about it. I don't know if they talk about it in the second one, but yeah, I don't. If I remember correctly in the book, there's like it doesn't even go into detail about it being the Ring of Power.
No, and they don't focus on that at all. I mean, I think part of the reason they don't talk about it is because they talked about it in Lord of the Rings. And they do bring up the ring, like he finds the ring in the first movie, and in this movie, he uses it a few times to make himself invisible.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But other than that, that's really the only time the ring is ever really even shown or anything, you know.
Yep, that's like it is in the book. So
cool. Number 7 for me is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Directed by Anthony and Joe Russo. This is part 2 of the Captain America films, although we have seen Captain America in the Avengers as well. I'm curious about this movie. I'm excited about it because it's a superhero movie, and I love pretty much all superhero movies. I'm also I like Captain America. I was a Captain America fan as a kid. I don't know much about this story, The Winter Soldier. I know just vaguely from what I've read on the internet. But from what I've heard, this Captain America movie is going to be more of like a political thriller, which I think is going to be kind of cool. But it's got a good cast. Chris Evans, Scarlett Johansson is back as Black Widow, Samuel L. Jackson. Anthony Mackie is going to be the Falcon, which will be fun to see. And Robert Redford is some character. But yeah, so one of the things that is disappointing to me is, I guess it works for this movie. I really liked, maybe I'm old school, but I really liked the costume that Captain America wore in the Avengers. And I think I'm kind of in the minority there, because I think from what I've read, a lot of the fans thought it looked cheesy and thought it looked stupid. The bright blue with the red and white striped and everything. Like it looks like you took Captain America out of the comic book and put him in the movie. And so I really liked it. And so they've updated his costume for this movie where it's pretty much just dark blue and has like a silver star and a couple of silver little markings on it. But other than that, it's just pretty much like a, very kind of streamlined. And it looks good, but it to me, it just doesn't seem like Captain America to me. Mm-hmm. So I'm curious if that's something that's going to be specifically just for this movie, or if he's going to wear this costume, if this is going to be kind of his Captain America costume from here on out that he'll wear in Avengers 2 and Captain America 3. I know that's kind of a nitpicky thing, but that's just one of the things.
So his suit was different in the Avengers than it was in his solo movie?
It was. In his solo movie, it was kind of a 1940s style. It had he had brown boots, brown gloves, and it was kind of the helmet didn't connect to the body part of the suit, and so they updated. If you look Google Captain America: The Avengers, you'll see pictures of him, and then Google Captain America: The First Avenger, and you'll see pictures of him in that suit too. You can tell they're similar, but they're different. And I
didn't know that actually.
Yeah. So anyway, that's my number 7 pick, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, due out April 4th.
Interestingly enough, when you pulled that one out, I looked to see where it was on my list, and I forgot to put it down. So
there's even more movies that you were excited about.
It's on there somewhere, but it's invisible.
Okay.
So I'm just going to stick with my current list.
Sure, yeah, go for it. So far I was expecting us to have the same movies on our list, but so far they've all been different.
Yeah.
So it's kind of been fun.
Well, you're not going to have this one on your list.
Okay.
My number 6 is The Wind Rises.
Mm-hmm.
And it is Miyazaki's supposed final movie.
Which has already... I think what they did was they released it limited back in November, December, because it's been nominated for an Oscar for Best Animated Feature.
Well, it might have, but they also release it in Japan first.
Right. So, I think its official release is whenever it comes out that you're talking about. I think, though, they wanted to get it in just for those Oscars, so I don't even know if because I never saw it out here or anything, so I don't know where they released it, if it was a Japanese release or what, but that's why I've heard of it, because normally those Miyazaki movies I kind of miss them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we were actually talking recently, and we we'll hopefully do a podcast on one here in the next couple episodes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we should. I need to. I've only seen one, and I wasn't a huge fan of it, but John is determined to make me a Miyazaki fan. So
not just Miyazaki, anime in general.
Right.
We'll see.
It's going to be tough, I think. But
I've been trying for years. So yeah, this one I've seen the trailer for it. It's kind of different from his other films. It seems to be a little less fantasy.
Okay.
I mean, actually, yeah, I think it's. Well, there is some fantasy because of the stuff that the planes that they fly in it and stuff like that. But from what I saw, I don't think there's really any magic or anything involved with it. So
I read a little synopsis on it, and it talks about, I think, how it was going to kind of incorporate certain historical events into the movie. Like certain things that have happened in Japanese history, I think, are going to kind of show up in the movie. So I don't know if it takes place in the past or the present or one, but
well,
it sounds
it
interesting.
takes place during World War II.
Okay, well there you go.
Yeah. So that's my number 6, and that's going to be released February 21st.
Oh, that's pretty soon.
Yeah.
Nice. Maybe I'll have to see it in the theater.
You should.
And then we could do a podcast on it.
Yeah.
I'll give it a chance.
But you still need. There's a couple you need to see, even though this one might be a good one to start off with. I don't know. Anyway,
we'll save it for another time. Number 6 for me is Transcendence, which is a directorial debut from Wally Pfister or Pfister. I don't know how you say his name exactly. But he is the cinematographer, or he has been the cinematographer for Christopher Nolan. He did all 3 Batman movies for Christopher Nolan, and he did The Prestige and Inception. And so this is the first time that he's deciding to be the director of a film, and it stars Johnny Depp, Kate Mara, Morgan Freeman, Rebecca Hall, Cillian Murphy. So he's gotten a few people from the Christopher Nolan movies to appear. I don't know much about this movie. I know it kind of has to do with computers and kind of a cyber. It's like a cyber thriller, maybe. I guess you could maybe call it that. But I'm interested to see, because I love his cinematography from the Nolan films. I think he's got obviously a really good visual eye. So I'm curious to see how he is as a director. And it just, from what I've heard, it seems like it's going to be a cool movie. And there was a teaser release that looked pretty cool. So I'm excited about it. Transcendence comes out April 17th.
Okay, I haven't seen that teaser, so I'll have to give that a look. Number 5 for me is a movie that I know nothing about. I've only seen a still shot, and I don't know anything about the team either. But it's Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just... all I can really say is it's Marvel, and
right.
I'm anxious to see what they do with it.
This movie is on my list, so I'm going to save what I have to say about it until we get there. But that being said, I will also say I know nothing about it as well. But it's up on my list. It's coming up, so I'll save it for when it comes out. That one comes out August 1st?
August 1st.
August 1st.
That's it.
All right. Guardians of the Galaxy. My number 5 is Noah, which is directed by Darren Aronofsky. Stars Russell Crowe, Jennifer Connelly, Emma Watson from Harry Potter, and Ray Winstone. I know a lot of people are kind of giving Darren Aronofsky some grief because they think he's a sellout now because this movie has a lot of visual effects and looks more like kind of a big budget, maybe not a blockbuster, but kind of a big budget film, which is different than what he's kind of used to doing. But I don't really care. I think it looks good, and I love Darren Aronofsky, and I'll pretty much see any Darren Aronofsky movie that comes out. You know, Darren Aronofsky was once attached to do the RoboCop remake, which I think would have been amazing.
Yes. Yeah, when I found out he dropped that, I was pretty sad.
And he was also attached to do the Wolverine,
yep.
which he dropped out of. So I would really like to have seen Darren Aronofsky's versions of both of those films. So but instead we're getting Noah, and I think it looks really good. So, I'm excited about it.
Okay.
I think Russell Crowe looks like he's going to do a really good job. But that Noah comes out March 28th.
Number 4 for me is The Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Nice.
I have only seen the first one once.
Oh, wow.
And that's because I wasn't the biggest fan of it. One of the problems could have been that there was a little kid talking through half the movie.
That'll do it. That'll ruin a movie for you.
But I don't think that was everything. I remember not really being too fond of the lizard.
Right.
And it just didn't feel... I mean, if the Raimi movies hadn't come out, it probably would have been awesome to me.
That's why I think that's part of its problem is... Because when I saw the first time I saw it, I had the same feelings you did. I think maybe you're a little bit more critical because you're more of a Spider-Man fan than I am. But it came out so soon after the Raimi Spider-Mans, you can't help but compare it. Right. You can't help but think, Raimi, I think, did it so much better. And so I will say the second time I saw it, I actually enjoyed it more. I think you can kind of get those comparisons. Those comparisons, I think, are now done. They're out of your mind, and you can kind of enjoy the movie the second time. It's still not as good, I think, as the Raimi Spider-Mans, especially not Spider-Man 2. That would be a tough one to top. But I do enjoy Andrew Garfield's The Amazing, I enjoy his version of Spider-Man and that movie a little bit more now that I've seen it a couple of times. Mm-hmm. So I think you should revisit it. You should watch it.
I definitely plan to. I'm on the fence about Electro. I've wanted him to be a villain in the movie for a long time, but I think I'm like the only person on the planet that wanted to see him in his green spandex, like classic costume. Right. But it's cool, they've kind of got the infamous the video game that's on PlayStation. It's kind of the character kind of has that feel. Rhino's in it, which I'm excited to see. I don't really like the mechanical suit he's using, but maybe it'll be cool. So, number 4 on my list. That was one thing I do remember taking away from the first Mark Webb movie, was that I was very excited about a sequel. So,
yeah, now that they set up, like they redid the origin, they set up who Spider-Man was and everything.
Right.
I have more to say on this one, but this is also going to show up on my list in a little bit, so okay. I'll hold off.
All right. And that's May 2nd.
Number 4 for me is Guardians of the Galaxy. Directed by James Gunn, who people might know him for he did some like horror films, Slither. I can't remember what he did most recently, but he seems like he's a big comic book fan. He knows the characters. He's not up there with Joss Whedon in terms of fan base, but I think he's kind of up there with Joss Whedon in terms of he has a grasp on the material, just from what it seems, And so I'm real excited about the cast. Chris Pratt is in it, who, if you've ever watched Parks and Recreation, is hilarious. Zoe Saldana's in it. Bradley Cooper is going to be the voice of Rocket Raccoon, who's one of the characters. And Vin Diesel is going to be the voice of Groot, who's the guy who looks like a tree. Other than that, I know nothing about this movie. But I'm kind of excited about it because I'm assuming it's going to be mostly not on Earth. So, I mean, I could be wrong about that. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know anything about it. But it's called Guardians of the Galaxy, so I'm assuming it's going to be a sci-fi, mostly in space or on other worlds type of movie, and I think I'm hoping it's going to be kind of like Marvel's, Star Wars kind of,
or Green Lantern,
yeah, kind of installment in their Marvel universe. So, and sometimes it's fun going into comic book movies not knowing anything about the characters. Sometimes when you know a lot about the character, you're kind of just waiting for them to get through the origin stuff. But when you don't know anything about them, like I didn't know anything about Thor going into Thor, and so I really enjoyed Thor.
Right, and there are a few other movies where I knew about the character, a little bit. Punisher, stuff like that. Mm-hmm. This is the first superhero movie I can think of that I had never even heard of them.
Right, and honestly, when they announced, this was, last year, 2 years ago? I can't even remember. When they announced Guardians of the Galaxy was going to be one of their movies, I remember I was like, who? Like, yeah. I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
Maybe that's because I am not a good comic book fan like I should be, but...
I think we just lost half of our listeners.
Well, I hope not, but okay. Hey, it made the list. That counts for something.
Yeah, there you go. All right.
So that's number 4 for me. That's August 1st, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Okay. Number 3 on my list is Godzilla.
This one was one of the ones I had to cross off. This one didn't make the cut.
I am stoked about Godzilla. Very short list why. One, they're kind of doing the mystery thing. You don't really see Godzilla. But you've seen him. We've seen screenshots of him, and that's one of the things that excites me is that he's very, very similar to the classic Japanese style Godzilla.
Yep. They learned their lesson from that 1998 Matthew Broderick film.
Yeah. We've got Bryan Cranston in this, and the director is Gareth Edwards, who
is known for a movie called Monsters, which was, I think, a pretty low-budget, I don't know if it was a sci-fi or a horror film or whatever, but it's on Netflix. I haven't watched it yet, but I've heard good things about it, actually.
Okay. Yeah, he doesn't have too much on his plate, and I've never seen any of his movies, but Godzilla, I was a big Godzilla fan as a kid, and I'd really like to see him kind of redeem himself in America's eyes.
I would too. I hope it's good. I hope it's not another 1998 Godzilla.
Yeah, and that release date is May 16th.
May 16th. Very nice. All right, number 3 for me is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I will say this: it is number 3 on my list. I'm very excited about it, but I'm also very nervous about it. I'm worried that there's going to be too many villains, that it's going to be, the same thing that happened to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 3, and it's going to get bogged down, and it's going to try to resolve things too quickly or try to set things up for a sequel that should have just been left for the sequel. We've already got posters out with Electro, Rhino, and it looks like Harry Osborn as Green Goblin on the posters. Mm-hmm. So that's 3 villains already that I'm just worried about. Plus, I think Harry Osborn as Green Goblin looks kind of ridiculous, and I'm also really concerned about the Rhino mechanical suit, like you are. Mm-hmm. I hope these things are good and that I don't have to worry about them, but I don't know. That being said, though, it's Spider-Man, and I love seeing Spider-Man movies. Mm-hmm. I like that they've kind of gone back to the classic Spider-Man costume. I didn't hate the costume from the first movie by any means.
Right.
But I think this costume looks great. They got the big eyes on him and everything. I think it looks fun.
Yeah, I didn't hate the costume either from the first one, but that's kind of misleading because I really wanted a different one. Mm-hmm. And to see them almost go back to the Raimi costume was really pleasing for me to see.
Right. So I'm hoping it's really good. It's obviously, I think Jamie Foxx's Electro will be good. Like you said, he looks nothing like he does in the comics. But I know you wanted to see the costume, but his mask is so
I know
crazy.
It's ridiculous.
I don't know how it would look in a live action movie. The only thing that I could think they could maybe do is at one point have like electricity kind of, it seems, coming off of him, and maybe it kind of goes in the direction to kind of look like the mask for a little bit, or something. But I just don't know how you do that in a live action film. But Jamie Foxx is a good actor, so I think he'll do a good job with Electro. Mm-hmm. So that's my number 3 pick, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay.
Comes out May 2nd.
Okay. Well, brings me to number 2, which is Noah.
Oh, very nice.
I have been super stoked about Noah ever since I heard about it, but mainly because Darren Aronofsky is directing it. And I saw there was before they released any footage, there was a leak that was only up for a couple hours. And I got to see that. And I don't know if that footage has been released yet. But the footage just looked amazing. And just very epic. And Russell Crowe looked like he was going to do great. And the music was awesome. And it just looked like it was really well put together, well directed. It's Darren Aronofsky. And I'm just super stoked to see how this turns out. And of course you have the controversy apparently about the ending. And I don't know, did they do anything about that or did they leave it the same?
I have not heard. I didn't even know there was a controversy about the ending. So I haven't heard anything about that.
Yeah, apparently, I can't remember who it was, but there's some controversy about the ending, and mainly, with the religious crowd, group.
I got you.
So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's my number 2, and you set the release date on that, which is
it was March 28th.
Yeah,
not too far. Not too far. Yeah, I can't wait. It'll be fun. Number 2 for me is Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan, which comes out November 7th. Stars Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, and Michael Caine, which I think at this point Michael Caine has to be in a Christopher Nolan film. I don't know much about this. I know it has a sci-fi element to it. It has to do something with discovering a wormhole. But other than that, Christopher Nolan has pretty much kept this film under wraps. There's been a small teaser release that really has barely any footage from the movie. It's mostly footage of news, about kind of America's race to space. But it's Christopher Nolan, written by Jonathan Nolan and Christopher Nolan. So at this point, Christopher Nolan just has to say, I'm making a movie, and I'll buy my ticket for it. So that is my number 2, Interstellar, November 7th.
Once again, I'm a moron. Because I totally forgot about that one. That would have been very high up on my list as well.
That being said, I think our number 1
is probably the same.
Is the same.
Number 1.
So we can talk about it together. Yeah, number 1 for you. Go ahead.
X-Men Days of Future Past.
Number 1 for me, X-Men Days of Future Past.
We've got
directed by Bryan Singer.
We've got Bryan Singer back at the helm.
There are so many people in this movie. We've got Hugh Jackman, Michael Fassbender, James McAvoy, Jennifer Lawrence, Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen, Halle Berry. Pretty much anybody who's been in an X-Men movie is back in this movie. Sort of. I love Bryan Singer's X-Men and X-Men 2.
Exactly.
And I loved X-Men First Class.
X-Men First Class was very good.
And this movie just is going to be, I think, the biggest X-Men movie that we've gotten, and it's going to have the biggest. It's going to the most epic. I think is the best way to put it. It's we're finally getting to see Bishop. There's the time travel element to it that I love.
Is Cable supposed to be in it?
I don't think so. They're making an X-Force movie at 20th Century Fox, so I think they're saving Cable to be in the X-Force movie. So Cable's not in it. Kitty Pryde is in it. Ellen Page is back. And I know in the comic book version of X-Men Days of Future Past, she's the one that goes back in time to prevent whatever it is. I've never actually read the comic. I only have seen the animated episode, which in the animated version they send Bishop back in time. But in the comic, it's Kitty Pryde.
Interesting, yeah. And it was.
But in this movie,
it was
they obviously
Forge. If you remember Forge.
Forge and Wolverine send Bishop back.
Right.
And in this movie, Wolverine is the one that gets sent back.
In fact, now that we're... And I think that's... I can't remember if that's the one where Wolverine and... I'm talking about the animated here. Where Wolverine and Storm were an item. I know that it was sometime in the future, an alternate future. It probably was that that storyline that I'm thinking of.
It might have been. I know there's a lot of the characters in the future scenes of the animated series, a lot of the mutants are dead.
Yes. Yeah, and I think I'm pretty sure that's it, because it's one of the reasons why it's kind of like, oh, they're together, and they're one of the last X-Men. In fact, I think they were the last two.
So it'll be interesting to see. I think we're going to get a little bit more of the future elements in this. I mean, it seems like a lot of the mutants are still alive, so I wonder if in the future scenes we're going to see a lot of X-Men deaths, and then that maybe were corrected when he goes back in time. But we're going to finally see Sentinels, in action.
What do you think about them?
I think the ones from the 70s, the old Sentinels, the ones that look like Sentinels that from the animated series and everything that we know, I think those look awesome. The future Sentinel the picture that was released, looks interesting, but I don't hate it. I think it's supposed to, it'll be interesting. I have to really kind of reserve judgment for when we actually see it. I'm hoping we'll see one in a trailer, or at least a glimpse of one. But it really seems to me like the way it's designed is it's supposed to be able to kind of change shape, maybe. At least maybe be able to expand and slim down.
Interesting.
So I've heard that Sentinel is based on a character called Nimrod.
Oh yeah,
kind of
yeah. He's from that storyline.
Right.
He's basically a Terminator.
There you go. So I think that Future Sentinel is kind of like a cross between Sentinels and Nimrod.
Okay. Nimrod was a big deal to Bishop. Like, I remember when he saw him, he was like, Nimrod! And started freaking out and, like, trying to hide and stuff, yeah.
So this will be the 6th, not including X-Men First Class, this will be the 6th time Hugh Jackman has portrayed Wolverine. And
thank God he's reprising his role.
Come on.
He could have turned it down, and that would have...
I don't think you could have made this movie.
Yeah, I don't either.
The only thing that worries me about this movie is its writer. It's written by a guy named Simon Kinberg, who doesn't have the greatest track record. He was one of the co-writers of X-Men 3, X-Men The Last Stand. And
that was probably before Bryan Singer got kicked off, though.
It might have been. And Bryan Singer does seem to kind of have some input on the script, and I do like Bryan Singer as a director. He also wrote Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which wasn't bad, but he also wrote like Triple X 2, Triple X like State of the Union, and a couple other things that made me wonder. But I'm hoping, because the story credit is him and Matthew Vaughn, who directed X-Men First Class, and one other person. It might have been Matthew Vaughn's writing partner. So I'm hoping the story is really good and that it turns out to be a really great movie. I'm hoping it becomes like my favorite X-Men movie.
Oh, of course. Yeah, of course. I would like every superhero movie that comes out to be my favorite
favorite yeah,
of all time.
So I don't know if we said, but X-Men Days of Future Past comes out May 23rd, and it's my top pick for the year, and it's John's most anticipated movie of the year. So I can't wait to see it. A couple of runner-ups. I don't know. A couple of
you said them both.
Ones that didn't.
You're safe.
A couple ones that didn't make the list. The Monuments Men. The only reason I didn't include The Monuments Men was because, number one, there's just so many other good movies. But number two, it comes out really soon. It comes out February 7th. So I'm going to get to see this like the end of next week. But that's George Clooney's movie that was supposed to come out in December, but got pushed back for visual effects, to make sure the visual effects were completed. I also have The Grand Budapest Hotel, which is Wes Anderson's new movie that looks a lot of fun. I've loved pretty much every movie Wes Anderson has put out, and some people don't like Wes Anderson anymore. They liked his earlier movies, but don't like him now, and I don't really know why.
What movies has he come? The last movie I saw of his was The Fantastic Mr. Fox.
He had one more come out after that called Moonrise Kingdom, which was amazing. I really, really enjoyed Moonrise Kingdom. And now he's got this one, the Grand Budapest
The
Hotel.
Fantastic
It's like
Mr. Fox was awesome too.
Yeah, and some people didn't like The Life Aquatic, which I love.
Oh my goodness, that movie was great.
Yeah, and people don't like Royal Tenenbaums, which I love. So I think you're either a Wes Anderson fan or you're not, I think.
Yeah.
And I am. A couple more on my list. Godzilla, which you talked about. Edge of Tomorrow, which is the new Tom Cruise
that
movie.
one's one I had to take off.
That one's June 6th.
I just don't know enough
and then,
about that one.
Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. It doesn't have the same director. It's also a different cast, so I'm hoping that one will be as good as Rise of the Planet of the Apes, but
I have not seen that.
I don't know. You haven't seen Rise?
Mm-mm.
Oh, wow. It's a good movie. You should check it out. And then a guilty pleasure that almost made it to the list, but I think it was probably one of the first ones I scratched off. Transformers 4, Age of Extinction.
I saw that one, and I passed over it.
The Transformers movie, I will admit, are guilty pleasures of mine. They are, they're terrible movies that I just enjoy watching. They have so many bad elements to them, but to me, they're just fun. I saw all three of them in the theater. The second one is obviously easily the worst. And so I'm interested to see this one because it is still Michael Bay, but it's got a whole new cast, and he's kind of redesigned some of the Transformers. So it's almost like a reboot, but not really. Mark Wahlberg is in it this time rather than Shia LaBeouf.
Are there Dinobots?
Dinobots have been rumored, which I don't know about that. I'm a little unsure of whether or not Dinobots are going to work.
The show was good. Beast
right.
Wars.
So anyway, that's Transformers 4.
Yeah.
Didn't make the list, but I'll probably end up seeing it anyway. So there you have it. Those are our top 10 most anticipated movies of 2014. Feel free to let us know what movies we missed, like some of these indie films, perhaps. Maybe there's some indie films out there that you guys know about that we need to know about. Please let us know. Comment on the website, cinemaheroes.com, or email us, justin@cinemaheroes.com or john@cinemaheroes.com. And, I think that's all I got. You got anything else to add, John?
Sounds good to me. We'll
all right,
see you next time.
Yeah, thanks for listening. Thanks for downloading. Bye.
You got to leave that bye in.